Churning doesn't appear to be a widely recognized or established term or platform in the context of video distribution. The video distribution landscape is dynamic, and new platforms and technologies may have emerged. Additionally, the popularity and dominance of specific platforms can change rapidly as consumer preferences and industry trends evolve. So many questions arise to our minds. Now, first one is, what are the global trends in video distribution and how do they differ in various regions around the world? Next one could be, what are the implications of different video distribution models, like if we talk about subscription-based, pay-per-view, or free ad-supported? Another would be, are there any emerging technologies or trends that are reshaping the video distribution platform ecosystem? So you're going to get all the respective answers in our first panel. Without a further ado, would like to welcome Dr. Prem Ojha, Group CEO, Fastway. May I please request all of you that please join me in welcoming Dr. Ojha on stage and give him a warm round of applause. Please welcome Dr. Ojha. Okay. Without a further ado, would like to welcome Mr. Amit Arora, President, IndiaCast. Please welcome Mr. Amit Arora. After this, would like to take the honor to invite Mr. Manoj Dobhal, CEO, Dish TV India. Please welcome Mr. Dobhal. We have Ruchir Jain, Head of Distribution and Eurosport, South Asia, Warner Brothers Discovery. Please welcome Mr. Ruchir Jain. Would like to take the honor to invite Mr. Sandeep Gupta, COO, Broadcasting Business, Shimaru Entertainment. May I have the honor to invite you on stage, Mr. Gupta. We have Mr. Alex Pogum, Streaming Market Development Director, EMEA APAC Harmonic. Please welcome Mr. Alex. And after this, would like to invite on stage our session chair, of course, Mr. Ashish Ferwani, Partner, Media and Entertainment Advisory Services, Ernst & Young, LLP. Please welcome all of you gentlemen on the stage.
Thank you so much. And from the virtual world, let's come down to the real world now in this session. All right. So I'm gonna set the context. I'm gonna take over from where Saurabh actually left off, and he posited a very interesting thought that, and it kind of matches our assumptions. Our numbers may be a few million here and there, but by 2028, we see the TV world breaking up into three largely equal parts. You'll have about 70 to 80 million pay TV homes. You'll have 65 to 70 million free TV homes, and you'll also have around 70 million connected TV homes. Actual guys who connect and watch more than 5 minutes a day, not what is claimed as CTV right now. Okay, so in this one-third kind of environment, which we are steadily moving towards, we've seen this over the last 3 years, we're clearly moving into a direction, you know, like this one-third. So starting from a broadcaster point of view, I don't know, maybe Ruchir, Amit, right? How will this change your strategy on content, on monetization?
Thank you, Ashish. So I think at WBD, so we are very hopeful about the future right now, right? So if you look at this, what's going to happen is, one is that the entire set of consumers are increasing in number, right? So Saurabh talked about how 200 is going to 360, how pay TV is going to grow, connected TVs, then you talk about free-to-air, etc. So the number of people coming into the media fold is going to increase. So that's one big factor. The second big factor is basically the time spent, right? So if you look at all the developed markets, right? More than 50% of the waking hours are actually spent either consuming some form of content, reading, hearing, or watching, right? In India, it is still low by many standards. So there are no comprehensive studies, but many studies peg it at 4 to 6 hours, 7 hours. Compare that to 13 hours, which is there in US right now, right? So more number of people, more time, right? The third emerging trend there is, which is going to help the entire industry, is the value that consumer place, right? So the evolving technologies of, say, immersive tech, right? So talk about augmented reality, talk about gaming, gamification of content, interactive pieces, the see and do, sort of tech. Talk about hyper-local, we, spoke about. Talk about fan-based communities, events. So there is more value that the consumer is going to place on these engagements and these experiences. So more people, more time, more value, right? So therefore, the wallet share or the money on the table is going to go up multifold in the next 5 years, 10 years, etc. Now the question is that how do you draw your share out of it, and how do you basically create content that transcends these platforms?
So will you look at all three, or will you focus, as you have in the past, largely on pay?
So right now we are in pay, but we are actually creating content that is transcending platforms. So, talk about digital, for example. We have a OTT offering. We are also basically striking partnerships, with multiple players and multiple platforms. We also have theatrical. We also, partner with brands to do on-ground events. So we are, expanding into this. Globally, we also have large gaming business. So I don't think we will be constrained, that way. But I think this will evolve over a period of time, and it will, impact the entire value chain. So you have more democratization of the creative economy. You will have more money flowing into the broadcaster or the creators of those, content. You will have aggregators and distribution platforms that will change. And then obviously at the last end is the consumer, which will get more choice and probably more value for money.
Yeah. So I think it's clear you have to address all three market segments. That's important. But Amit, from your point of view, and this is a very difficult question, if I may, is the content the same across all three? Or do you have to recreate different contents at different price points?
You had to put the difficult one to me, sir.
Yeah, I've known you so long, I can take these liberties.
See, I'll tell you what. We're all, I really don't agree in the real sense that, we're looking at a trend of last 3 years and projecting that which side are we going to go for the next 5 years or 10 years.
Fair.
Technically what linear pay TV has seen is a decline in the last 3 to 4 years. I don't think so. In the last 15 or 18 years that I've been in this industry, we've seen linear pay TV going down. So we just look back and we say, okay, fine, you're losing 5 million a year. You'll tend to lose 5 million every year because directionally you're moving towards that. One more Black Swan event, things could turn. But okay, leave that, be that as it may. Very definitely connected TVs. Today the estimates are ranging between 25 million to 40 million. Content, your question, will content remain the same all across? The answer is no. Because when you're actually catering to free TV side of the business, you're largely today making more and more reruns for them, not really big time original because the cost factor comes in and the audience you're addressing is very different, which is watching pay TV. The premiumness on pay TV will still has to be distinctive from a free TV because then you tend to lose out on your subscription income. Insofar as the connected TV is concerned, I would still say on a connected TV front, you'll have short formats, you'll have linear channels, you'll have content which is very different from what you see on a linear side of business.
So I have a very interesting, data point here, which is that you look at pay TV content right now, right? That's the whole and soul fiction that runs this country, right? On many OTT platforms, up to 80% of the consumption, despite having originals, is still that same content. It's just a different way of accessing it. And when you look at free TV as well, it's, as you rightly said, all reruns, again, of the same pay TV content, maybe after a year. So in effect, all three platforms seem to be consuming a lot of common content as of now. And you're saying that's going to change in the future. Formats will change, maybe the price points, quality may change. I agree with all of that. But do you really think that India is going to want so much more content innovation? Sorry, again, a tough question, but go for it.
Not really. See, I'm not a content maker myself, so I can only just look from the third frame of reference and talk that while you may be correct that, the ease of watching on a digital platform, the same stuff that you're watching is because you want to catch up on that. That's the ease. But really, if you want to get the audience stuck to a particular medium, then I think the offering will have to be
different. No, that's a very fair point. Prem, I'm coming to you. I should say Dr. Prem, sorry. Dr. Prem, I'm coming to you. You guys are like the gods of distribution in Punjab, right? You own the state. And you also have a great broadband business growing out there. So when you see this free pay and CTV, where is your money on? Is it on the CTV part of it? Is it on the pay part of it?
Thank you, Ashish. I think, you said that distribution is God. We all hear that.
It depends which panel I'm on. When I'm doing content, it's more content is king. Yeah.
But with all humility and responsibility, I must say that we have a very important and significant role to play as far as whole content distribution is concerned, because this is how it reaches to the end user. And as far as our journey is concerned, from a linear TV, 6-7 years down the line, earlier ago, and now we are a totally converged service provider. So we no more looking at doing this or maybe only supporting linear TV, but giving converged services. The idea is to look at what the consumer wants, how the technology is evolving. Mind you, the nature of technology is to evolve, and it is evolving at a very rapid pace. And all we need to do is follow the trends, be amongst the front runner in adopting those changes, and deliver whatever is required by the consumer exactly the way they want. So I think we have done a fair bit in that direction. We have evolved as a converged service provider. We are providing content of all formats to our consumers, and across the consumer segments, we know how each of this content is consumed. So while our friends are busy creating content and doing all the innovation over there, and I'm very thankful to all of them for their effort, our job is to keep the ground ready to so that all this beautiful content and all this absorbing content can actually reach out to consumer the way they want it. Today the desire is to see it anywhere, anytime, and I think that's where we are working.
But do you see in the timeline Saurabh mentioned, 10 years down the line, do you see a day where you'll have more broadband connections and linear connections?
Definitely.
Because you're in one of the most prosperous states of the country.
Definitely. I think I'll give you a very interesting snippet into that. There are geographies where our broadband connections have outgrown the number of CATV connections already. Yes, of course.
Wow.
So this is happening at a very rapid pace, and there are consumer segments where this adoption has happened very fast. And I'm very sure, see, we all keep saying roti, kapda, makan and broadband. So, I mean, we really mean that. And every home is going to, today we are just about 9 to 10% of Indian homes are, wire connected. But that day is not very far. I think another 2-3 years probably we'll be at around 50% of coverage. And it's not that the demand is less. It is that the feasibility or the service reach is less. So, the limiting factor is not the need or the demand. The limiting factor is the way we can serve it. So, I think the whole industry is working. It's a sunrise opportunity for all of us. And the pace of expanding the services is it has to really go up phenomenally.
Okay, that's a great point. And on that, I'll move to you, Manoj. You're sitting out there in one of the largest networks, right, of the country, Dish. And you've launched Ojha as well. And how do you, in terms of your strategy, do you feel that maybe now, after years of having an edge over the cable guys, you think that because of this whole wired, craze that like Dr. Prem was talking about, you think now cable guys will have a upper hand over DTH because they can go into the homes and wire them up with cable as well? And what will DTH's strategy be in this scenario?
Thanks, Ashish. So I'll go a bit...
Sorry, I'm full of tough questions.
No, it's
today.
okay. Yeah. So I'll go a bit, 2 or 3 steps back before I come to... pardon me for that. I might come to this question much later in the discussion. See, I have let's take this discussion forward on pay TV, cable TV, broadband, the higher end of the spectrum, which is OTT, and the bottom end of the spectrum, which is, non-TV households. And then comes in the, pay TV dark households, which is free dish and all. So, good thing, I think we have already heard Saurav also saying, and Prem and others also have the same opinion, that from a 31 million household, 31 crore household, I'll call, that language. From there, we are going to almost around 40 crore households in this country. So if you look at, there has been a lot of pessimism, and that's because of the way the platforms have behaved in the past and were not able to, transform themselves. But having said that, has there been a bleed? There has been a bleed between the platforms, not from the consumer perspective. There are always a new pipeline which is ready and which is aspiring to get into the pay TV platform. And the second part of the discussion which I just heard, we have assumed that there is going to be, exclusivity between these, buckets or segments. If you ask me, there's going to be a lot of overlap in that. There's no exclusivity that there would be only, 55 million DTH pay TV households, or 55 to 60 million cable pay TV households, or 20 to 30 million only OTT households. That's not going to be the case. There's going to be a large degree of overlap. I think I can point out towards the audience here. So there are some 120, 150 odd people sitting here. I can bet all of them would have watched some content or other on all the different platforms in the last 5 to 7 days. It is just a matter of what you want to watch at what particular interval of time, period of time, depending on the convenience, depending on the user interface that you get, UI experience, and the need to watch that content at that particular point of time. So it all depends on that. So if you ask me, पहले बैलगाड़ी चला करती थी. From बैलगाड़ी we went to, bullock cart, for your understanding, right? So from bullock cart we moved to maybe a bicycle. From a bicycle we moved to a car. From a car we moved to a train and then a plane. So it doesn't mean that the bullock cart doesn't apply on the roads today. There are geographies for that. So that's about coexistence. Right, so if
Very valid point on coexistence, and I think that's an important takeaway for all of us, that all of these are not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, it's only the adaptability which a brand. So there are brands with long-drawn legacies and new ones coming up. Fortunately, unfortunately, because I am at the receiving end of it, when I say I means the DTH, because we are the one who showed the world of, or the country that, what experience it brings when you watch an immersive content on a, technology upgraded version of a, satellite and all that, right? So we saw that. And because we were the good boys and the malicious boys of the class, we got the maximum attention from everybody, including the regulator, right? So with no, no disrespect to anybody, right? So that's a different story on regulation and all. I think somewhere during the course of time, we may touch upon that as well, if you have that in your syllabus, right? So what happened? So it is not about being mutually exclusive. So what has happened in pay TV, especially DTH I'm talking about, the number of hours have gone down. Today also, if I have to, think about putting something into my home or renovating my house, first thing I look about is the, living room. And the first thing I look about is where do I place my TV, right? So people still are watching TV, and the social fabric and the thread which runs deep in this country, and if you look at beyond tier 1 and tier 2 towns, TV is irreplaceable. And from 30 crore, we are going to 40 crore, right? It is just that how a brand is strategically, alive to the situation and bringing in the right content at the right time, and somebody who can, solve this puzzle of any time, anywhere, or anything in terms of content, the ecosystem of devices, and the timing is going to rule this, game.
That is easier said than done.
Yeah,
it's very difficult.
Yeah. And small or big, why there are, cable operators ruling, the small towns or villages? Because it's easier said than done. Even the biggest of the brand and the complexity of the requirement which a customer has today, I bet no brand can, fulfill it.
And that's why coming to my question.
Yeah.
DTH versus cable next 5 years.
Yeah, so there has been a fair bit of consolidation in cable. The people who are there have already tested the, waters. They know how to be agile and customer facing, and they have learned a lot. DTH always had that, edge, and it still carries that premium, right? It is just how the DTH operators, instead of taking cable as a competition, right, can actually coexist, because both of them can coexist in the same areas. It is just that, and we've seen it when I speak to the customers. There is something called churn, and that is what the topic was. So when we speak to the customer, the VOC is not that they have moved out. It is just that they have switched over at a particular point of time and they are coming back. So that is going to be existing. There is going to be a supply line which is going to come from the TV dark households and the pay TV dark households. So there's going to be enough bit of meat for everyone there. And I see maybe not a double-digit growth, but a low single-digit growth can easily be seen. For us, what is important is that we keep that base, we keep that customer with us, because we know who they are. And we also know that there are a lot of them who are looking for a OTT upgrade, right? And the ease is like all of them at one place. So there's so much of content today, people really don't know, right? What is coming, at what time it is coming, what is riveting. So all the platforms cannot make a riveting, gripping, sticky content all the time, because it involves a huge cost and capex involvement. True. Right? And there are times when after a marquee series by some platform, you see there's a lull, right? And that is where, the intelligence comes in, the engagement with the customer comes in. What is the customer looking for in this period? So it is not that he is, not going to watch anything. So that is where the artificial intelligence comes in, because there's so lot of data available to everybody today. So what do you derive out of that? And you can actually have a very targeted niche segment, seeking some relevant content at that point of time. So if you can, DTH platforms or pay or cable TV platforms can make that, next leap forward, or they reinvent themselves, that they can provide everything to the customer, right? They still have the ease over anybody else, because everybody else is buying from their kitty, right?
But don't you think that, and maybe Doctor, you can also answer on this, or Amit, you can answer on this, that given the fact that the cable guy already has a wire going into the home, it's very easy for him to go and add another wire from a broadband point of view. Do you see cable LCOs actually taking the initiative to wire up India from a broadband perspective?
I think you've touched the chord at the right place. We are a very unique success story in Punjab, Haryana and the neighboring states. I'll give you some stats. In Punjab, there are close to 13 lakh wired broadband homes. 13 lakh. And guess how much operator like us has in Punjab? Close to 42% of that, close to 6 point some lakhs. Now, if you see this kind of dominance with two national players, and we know they are very big and powerful players, and they're growing at a very brisk pace. You have incumbents, you have another basic service provider. So in that kind of a space, if you can manage this, so this gives you an indication.
What's your secret sauce? Doing it yourself, partnering with the LCO?
So I think the idea has been to, like I said earlier, just about 10% of homes today are wired. Internet is going through a wired medium. So that itself says that 90% is yet to happen. In Punjab, we were the first mover in terms of wiring, and taking fiber to every home. And we today have close to 6 million wired localities, wired homes. And apart from that, I think what we've done is there are 13,000 villages in census villages in Punjab. And out of that, around 50% villages, accounting to 75% of the population, because we've picked the larger ones, are also wired. So when this competition came in form of the national players and all those converged service offerings, OTT, bundled with broadband, this and that, I think for us the impact was minimal, because at that point we were expanding and getting the greenfield opportunities from the rural areas.
Very interesting.
So I think the secret is that you be nimble-footed, you reach out to more geographies, and cable operators, like you said, are potent enough, because they have been managing this wired animal for 2 decades or even more, 3 decades now. and they know exactly the nitty-gritties of how to manage this turf. And I think, if they continuously expand, that's the secret sauce, I would say.
Very, very interesting. Coming to Shemaru, very interesting products, all of them, right? How do you see yourself? I'm guessing CTV is the mojo for you that you're looking forward to.
No, Ashish, we are into actually everything. Yeah, because we have 4 broadcasting channels. And I'd like to correct something that you were saying, that the free TV audience is not just watching content which has been prepared by the biggies. There are too many broadcasters, including Shemaru, who is creating original content for them.
Yes.
The only challenge what comes in for the free TV audience basis, that the recovery of that content may not be possible in free TV only. So we have to figure out how do we monetize that content in other mediums. So we use our medium of OTT, which is our own OTT, Shemaru Me, YouTube itself, right? Any other syndication business that we go about.
Is for someone like you, with especially your interesting content around Gujarati, where, you have a fantastic play, is syndication more important over the next 5 years, or is building your own app a priority?
For Shemaru, Gujarati is building the own app is our priority. We are still, and we want to remain the leadership position.
The domination in the market.
Market domination, yeah.
And what about the other products, which may not be as powerful?
In terms of Shemaru Me, other products are reasonably growing well. Now, because we are focused or we have pivoted ourselves to Gujarati, it seems that it's in Gujarati that's working, but still in other areas of other content, we are still growing. We are trying to create more content for that.
Yeah.
Right? So, as a company, Shemaru is growing in terms of, significantly growing in terms of broadcast business. Right? And other than that, Shemaru Me and pivoted to Gujaratis of media.
And since you work in, theoretically the top end and the lower end, free TV and OTT, right? Is there like a common content trend between them, or do you see completely different consumption patterns?
Actually, in today's world, I think while everybody talks about that, you have to choose which kind of content, which kind of people would watch. But in all classes, there is in all classes, you have kind of viewer of the similar kind of content. As I was saying, that like the content that we produce for Shemaru TV, or Shemaru Umang, both the GC channels that we have on free TV, that's traveling around the world as well, right? And we are syndicating that content. We are also initiating our connected TV content for that same channel. So I see there is window for all type of content everywhere. We also carry syndicated contents of the bigger broadcasters in our free TV. So the same set of audience is tuned to watch what we are creating. Yeah, the only thing that I think post-COVID what has happened is the patience of people watching content is lower. So you have to increase the drama. The drama level of the content has to be very, very high. You can't be slow. You have very limited watch time that they give. If your drama is slow, they will switch to something else.
And switching to something else is actually a lot more difficult on CTV, I've realized. That's my personal experience. And I think maybe that's something I'd like to ask you about, Alex, because, just the ease of operation of TV ingrained in India since 30, 40 years has been we're so used to it. When we move to CTV, we see it's far more complicated. Even in my own house, my mother-in-law finds it almost impossible to figure out CTV, though she's now down to voice search. Okay, and that works better for her. But what are some of the more important technologies that we're going to need to see implemented across India over the next few years in order to capitalize on this one-third, 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 and all the new trends that are happening?
Sure.
Thank you for the question. So, coming from the technology part of things, and especially the broadcast infrastructure, I think we see a big trend in DTH cable stays strong, and for us, it stays a huge part of our business, helping broadcasters and operators distribute their content through those networks and optimize it. But the big growth is in streaming. And we've seen in 2022 a tipping point of globally the numbers of subscribers from pay TV subscribers being outpaced by the numbers of streaming subscribers. And so we're moving from sending a unified feeds in broadband to everyone to sending actually unicast and a unique feed to the end user. And that gives the ability to customize that unique feed. And so I think a lot of the innovation and the new technology that are emerging are around how do we leverage that streaming vessel and have the experience as personalized as possible, coming back to what Saurabh was saying before. This is really where a lot of the innovations are coming. So leveraging streaming, leveraging AI to automate a lot of workflow and to make those content as targeted as possible.
And when you talk about personalization, which you mentioned, right, very difficult to actually implement, especially, I don't know, Jio Cinema and Hotstar had, crores of concurrent viewers. At that scale, you actually think it's possible to personalize at that scale when India goes nuts watching a cricket match? It becomes extremely difficult, and you're just trying to make sure the video stays on more than anything else. So what's going to drive this, from a tech point of view in the next few years in personalization?
So I see several layers of, first the answer is yes, it's possible. And then I see several layers of personalization. You can go from, you open a streaming OTT platform and thanks to content recommendation engine, you have content that is proposed to you that is fitting your previous habits, your preferences. So that's more the lean forward experience where you choose something that is curated for you. And then we see more and more of ad-based streaming models where in order to fund all this, you need targeted ads. So that's the first layer of targeting. And targeting the ads to the individual, whether it be on-demand content or linear content. And that is already deployed at scale. We are behind some of the biggest OTT platforms. I would take the example of Peacock that reached 16.3 million concurrent users beginning of January on an NFL game. It is with targeted ads. I'm not raising my eyebrows. That's really small. It's true that compared to the numbers in India, it's smaller. But still, we're able to reach the 10,000s of concurrent viewers and target the ads at the individual, level. Ad targeting becomes super critical, right? Yeah. If you really want to get the rates up, and India's been chronically struggling with ad rates on digital, I think one of the most important things is enabling that ad targeting machine to work efficiently. And we're seeing trouble, and we're seeing a lot of advances there as well. And Gulshan's here, and I'd love to ask him how that works at some point. But I think that's perhaps a very good point you made. One of the single most important innovations that really needs a lot of work is probably ad targeting. Because OTT platforms don't always have as much data as, say, a Google does, or a Flipkart does. But how do you target ads? Where do you get the data? I think a lot of innovation there. And you need a tight integration between all these ad tech players also to share the data and be able to target us. You just said a very bad word, share the data. There's a law against it now. Hold on. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to go on to another interesting thing. Ruchir, from your point of view, when you see your audiences coming on YouTube, when you see your audiences on pay TV, on OTT platform, how do you sell all this from an advertising point of view? Do you think we need to keep a common metric going forward from an ad perspective, or do you still think we should have separate metrics for each platform?
So there are separate metrics. I am not an expert in ad sales here, but I know, sitting in meetings, that we track different metrics for each platform. So there are certain metrics that are possible to track on linear, which are not possible to track on digital, and then there are, and then there is vice versa. I just want to touch base also on the content piece. I think there are several conversations that we had, from Manoj, we heard from Amit, you also spoke about that. We heard from Sandeep's point of view as well. So from a content perspective, while, you are right that there are several pieces of content that may be common across, but then, so it's going to be kind of a Venn diagram, if you were to imagine that. So there are certain common areas, and then there are certain disparate areas, like crime, for example, is a content that is very single screen, sort of content, edgy content, that which you may want to watch in private, etc. But then there are content that will trump across mediums, like history and mythology, the newfound love that Indian audiences have for that. It just trumps. Like talk about Ramayana, for example, and I want to quote the bullock cart example, right? Some things just stay same as ever. Ramayana has been told from last 200 years, retold and retold in so many formats. Still, for WBD, the biggest success of last year was Legends of Ramayana that we had, and across platforms. So I think there is just a lot more, evolution that's happening on that side.
Very interesting. And taking that point of content forward, Manoj and Amit both, I want both of you to chime in on this. My personal feeling, and this is gut more than anything, I'll bow down to your final point of view on this. My personal feeling is that now the core need for digital to really grow is bundling. Just the way, Dish TV and Tata Sky and Hathway and Den came and bundled all the broadcasters' content and gave it to the end consumer. I think we need to see the same thing happening in a digital world. In that situation, where, a Jio will do fantastic work, Airtel will, extreme, Tata Play, Binge Plus, also working in those lines. And I'm sure many more will come up, right? When that happens, right, do you ever see pricing parity between TV and digital, or will digital continue to have a premium? Sorry, again, a bad one for you.
That's a very good question. I second it.
I would want to personally stay out of it.
Well, I'll tell you a very interesting aspect of it. Incidentally, the doctor that you are referring to, the research area for me has been the bundling.
Wow.
The topic is bundling in the emerging telecom scenario. That's the research topic. And whatever findings are there, I'll just try to put it across. Saurabh also made a mention of a very strong point, that it is not so much so about the value in terms of the monetary saving, but it is more to do with ease of use, how you access it,
yes,
utility. I think the research also showed, and it's not just one research, there have been hundreds of research on bundling. So 2-3 things that will happen in next 5 years. One is most of the operators will be forced to be a converged service operator. That's my take on it. Because, to survive with a single service, they'll always be they'll be seen as a very marginal player, and nobody will take them very seriously for a long time. So, all of us have to ride that bandwagon. That's one. Number two...
Sorry, on that point, then, in effect, what that means is that the broadcast industry needs very strong evangelizing to talk about the good content they create today, so that they don't get displaced by digital bundles in that sense. Because there is a strong risk that, when DTH came as a premium product to cable, digital is already positioned as a way more premium product. At least the price is far more than cable.
Yes, it is.
And then that brings the thought to my mind that if TV then has to continue to grow and survive.
Yeah.
Yes, Amit.
I just want to come back on this piece, and then maybe, I just funnily said that you're comparing prices between a linear TV and the prices of content in OTG space, because fundamentally linear TV stands regulated today. Imagine in a world if there was no regulation on prices. It would be left to the content maker. How does he want to play between one platform to the other platform? Finally, you're in the business of business for being in business, right? So to me, we're right now in such kind of system where you've been told exactly how do you price, when do you price, exactly how do you bundle, because there's somebody else who's actually telling you to remain within these four walls, and the other side of the business is unregulated. The answer to that is not regulate OTT. The answer to that is unregulate the TV business, because as the pundits are saying that you're going to lose 5 million every year, then you got to shake it up and do something about it. It cannot be that what was true 2 decades ago and regulation after regulation, and I'm not saying to remove every regulation, but the feather touch regulation that we always heard about, I think that piece is missing. That's one. Second piece that I think really the industry is not seeing it coming is the advent of piracy in India. The ARPU remains low, so it's not troubling people. But as and when you would want to jack up 10 rupees, 20 rupees, 30 rupees, 40 rupees, that is where the government really needs to focus on today.
Manoj, how easy is it to jack up 10 rupees? How easy is it for you to jack up your ARPU by 10 rupees in today's day and age?
Yeah. So the answer to this lies in, it's the same pocket. And like I said, the customer is actually switching between different content on different platforms. So today, I would safely say that, around 70 to 80% of my consumers, which are linear TV household, do also subscribe to OTT.
70%?
Yeah, of course.
That's a
Actually,
huge
let me
number.
tell you another interesting number.
Yeah.
On an average, every individual does not own more than 2.5 OTT apps.
Right.
So while we are in the search of the holy grail of how aggregation business is going to be, and no offense to anyone, my dear friend, and it's good if they've done watch or binge is there, but really, are people going to own up 5 pay OTT apps? The trend doesn't seem to be going
nowhere.
in that
I
direction.
think we're seeing that globally.
So I'll complement that. So what is going to happen is, like, you just go back 20 years from now, when the standalone channels, they started getting aggregated by the DPOs, the platforms. Yeah. It's the same situation for the OTT aggregation now, and that is where Watcho comes in. So we are reinventing ourselves. Customer, we did NTO, right? So what happened? Everybody thought that, customer would go through a list of 250 channels and choose. That was, living in some paradise, right?
Very well said.
And the same is the case today. So like Saurav also mentioned it, people actually for a 400, 500 ticket size don't have that much of time to invest on. So if you have a hybrid model, and we have the green doors, we know already, right? We are the customers, and we are seeing that, we are experimenting, sampling it. So people are adopting it very quick. So the hybrid is the answer. So for me, the answer is very simple. If my linear TV is giving me $300 today as a, monthly recharge or, ARPU I can say, and if I tell him that you give me $300 more for OTT, rather than that, I'll say, you are the same customer I'm servicing, and my ease of reaching to him, my engagement with him, because of the, development of this platform is already there, and I do have a complete visibility of what all he is consuming through the, mix of BI and AI now. So I know I can easily jack it up by $100. So taking the ARPU by $10 is not really going to be a challenge for the paid DTH.
Very nice.
Also, yeah.
Super. But I'm going to thank you guys all. I'm taking away 3-4 important points from all the discussions that we've had. I think there's enough opportunity, there's enough headroom for growth. That's clearly coming out. The share of how that will grow will change, and that really depends on how agile all of the players are in terms of pricing, in terms of bundling, and in terms of making sure the right technology reaches from a experience point of view. We need to see a lot more innovation around ad tech, to be able to personalize content tech, all of those things, because if we can't do that, our ad rates will remain abysmally low. And therefore, distribution actually plays a very important role in ad revenues in the new converged world. And I think it's equally important that from a broadcaster point of view, you have a strategy for all 3 segments, pay, free, and CTV, for complete success. And that's going to lead to so much more innovation. I can't even begin to think what's the lies ahead in that. And on that note, thank you all. I think it's been very interesting, a lot of heartfelt thoughts coming out. I enjoyed. I hope all of you enjoyed. Put your hands together for them. Wonderful panel.
You've made my job easier. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for pulling it off so very well. And we are here to wrap up this insightful discussion. Now, before we take the photo op, I would request Mr. Ashish to please felicitate all our esteemed panelists for the day, one by one. May I please request to kindly do the felicitation process, starting with Dr. Prem Ojha. May I kindly request all of you to please give a warm round of applause to all our esteemed speakers. They have shared their knowledge and expertise and filled us with a lot of ponder to just experience. And I hope you all have filtered your learning process as well with our first wonderful session it was. We'll start now with Mr. Amit Arora, the President, IndiaCast. Thank you so much, sir, for being here. We're really glad to have you. After this, we'll do the felicitation of Mr. Manoj Dobhal, CEO, Dish TV India. We are honored to have you here, sir. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with all of us. Glad to have you. Okay. It's Mr. Ruchir Jain, Head of Distribution and Eurosport, South Asia, Warner Brothers Discovery. Thank you so much, Ruchir, for joining us. Now we'll continue the felicitation for Mr. Sandeep Gupta, COO Broadcasting Business, Shimaru Entertainment. Thank you, Sandeep, for joining us today. And now we'll move on to felicitate Mr. Alex from Streaming Market Development Director, EMEA APAC Harmonic. Thank you so much, Alex, for joining us for the day. And I'll request all our panelists to kindly share their perspectives. And now I'll take the honor to felicitate Mr. Ashish Ferwani, our session chair, of course. How could I forget to do that?